right, everybody. Welcome to DNN. As many of you know, the stock market plummeted on Christmas Eve today, and that's pretty much a bad sign that everyone was hoping not to get over the past year. It started out in February that there probably could be a crash, but they were unsure. However, that's what the charts pointed to. And if we go check out the charts right now, we'll check out the Dow Jones. And as you can see, the Dow Jones has crashed. It's dropped over almost close to 7,000 points in the last 3 months. And if you look at the chart, right, the chart that I'm looking at right now that you should be looking at, you can see the blue lines that I have marked out and then the drop. The blue lines indicate a reverse head and shoulders pattern, which is usually a sign of a bear market or a drop. So, I mean, they knew it was coming. Everybody knew it was coming. However, this is supposed to be one we don't come back from. And this is probably the best time to go out and start stocking up on food, because the next 2 months are going to be critical for everybody to prepare for what comes next, which is what the government has already started preparing for, which is the government's going to start flooding the market with money that's basically not going to be worth a damn. So what happens when, as you can see on the screen, it says Trump administration plunge protection team convened amid Wall Street rout. Here's what to know. Well, what that means is what they did was they went to the heads of the CEOs of all the 6 major banks in the United States and said, do you all have liquidity? Do you all have enough money? Because this is bad right now. And do you all have enough money to lend out? Do you all have enough money to do what you need to do on a daily basis? And they pretty much said yes. Well, the reason that this is happening in the first place was because the stock market is already inflated. It's been inflated for quite some time. It's been inflated since I would say a little bit before 2011, but mainly 2011. That's what I say, because in 2011, the credit rating for the United States was downgraded to AA+, which is still all right. It's still good. It's still better than most ratings. But the government flooded the market with a lot of money, and the money we have isn't backed up by gold. Basically, you have a surplus of cash in the market, and it has nowhere to go. Everybody's pretty much bought everything. I mean, they haven't bought everything up, but there's just too much money in the market, and then there's nowhere for that market to go. However, on top of that, it seems that the government implemented a Ponzi scheme in order to do that. So what that means is that what happened to Bernie Madoff when he did his Ponzi scheme? Well, his Ponzi scheme ended up backfiring in his face, and he's doing life in prison. I mean, what happened to Bernie Madoff is going to be better than what we're getting ready to go through. So, if you don't know, we'll take a look at why it's important or what the stock market means. So, the stock market, the Dow Industrial, is made up of the top 30 significant stocks on the New York Stock Exchange. Like you're reading here, the single most watched indices in the world, and includes such companies as General Electric, Walt Disney, ExxonMobil. You can include tech stocks in there. You can include your oil companies in there. You can include your communications company in there, which is, to me, it's a little stupid to only use 30 companies to analyze the whole market, which I know why they did that. It's because if those top 30 companies were going under, or they go under at any point, the whole stock market is going to go under. But let me show you what the rest of the stock market is doing. So we're going to flip back here to our, this is my Webull account from the stock market. This is my account. You can't see anything, but let's go to all stocks. Okay, so you got the top 30 stocks. We'll just go to star stocks, which lists the top 20 stocks. Okay, so as you can see, the top 20 stocks are all down. That is the top 20 stocks in the United States, all down. Bank of America, Netflix, Amazon, AMD, Microsoft, Apple, Google, Berkshire Hathaway is down. That's their B stock. That's not their A stock. Warren Buffett is not going to let his A stock go down because, well, first of all, you can't buy his A stock. His A stock is worth, I think somewhere around, it's over $100,000. I know that. It's over $100,000. His A stock is. He didn't want his company to go down like that. So Tesla tried to do what Berkshire Hathaway has done and make his stock private stocks, but listed it on the stock market, and everybody threw a fit that Tesla was going to do that. And had Tesla done that, it would have locked in his price and kept his price like Berkshire Hathaway's has. It just stayed up. So these are your top 20 stocks, and that's what the stock market's based on, is your top stocks. And it just so happens that China is part of those stocks. So let's go to the rest of the stocks that aren't counted on the Dow Industrial Jones, or any of them. Your NASDAQ is counted for, I think, 100 stocks, 100 securities or something like that, 100 of the most important securities. So they're really not based on anything, the whole stock market, except for one, and that's the weighted indices, which a lot of people don't go by for some reason. I do not know why, because to me that is exactly what you need to go by, because that's 3,300 stocks, close to 4,000 stocks that they analyze. And to me, that's why would you analyze the stock market on 30 stocks? And I say the reason is because it's easier to manipulate those 30 stocks than it is 4,000 at any given time. You can't manipulate 4,000 stocks at one time. But you can gather 30 CEOs in a room and say, hey, I need you to manipulate the stocks. And I think that's why they did that. So we have all these stocks: Smash Entertainment, Micronet, and these are the other companies that I'm getting ready to show you are good companies. They are they're regular companies like let's find some. They're your pharmacy, the pharmacies, your gold mining companies. I'm trying to think of some that's part of this. Famous Dave's, GWG Holdings, Office Depot, Summit, Nordic American, Prevention Bio, MoneyGram. I mean, they're like I said, they're good companies. Sirius Satellite Radio is one of them. Avio, and what do you notice about all these companies? All these companies, and I will scroll until I can't scroll anymore. I mean, I'm not going to show you I can't go through all of them. But this is just, what do you notice about all these? Every single one of these stocks are up. What did I just see there? I just saw one for, it looked like Rent-A-Center maybe. I don't know. I don't know which one it was. Randgold Resources. Randgold Resources, that's a gold mining company. Barrick Gold. Barrick Gold, they're up. All the gold companies are up. Speaking of gold, the gold has went up, but not as big as I thought it was going to go up. Which, to me, that tells me that our money's not backed up by gold in the first place, and to me that means that people really don't care about gold. They really don't care about money. They care about what cash they have in their pocket, because that's what's spendable right now. And when it comes down to the end of the day, you're going to need food and water, and that is worth money. That is probably going to be your currency through the next few years. That's what I say. And it's not only me who's saying all of this. I mean, you have the media saying it. The president sent in his the Fed chair, the Secretary of Fed chair, to do damage control. They knew it was coming. If any of you want to look at all these stocks, you can look them up at any time. You can download this Webull app. That's not a plug for Webull, but they are the best company that I've used so far, and they do zero commission. Barnes and Noble, just all these companies are up. Every one that I've scrolled through are up. Every one of them. And I'm still going. All of them, every single one of them are up. They're all in the green. They're all in the green. And so they're basing the stock market has dropped on the top 30 stocks. Well, I haven't seen a large sell-off on stocks. I feel like the stock market is being manipulated, and that's the reason for the price of gold not shooting up the way it has. Because you have to think of it this way: if the public is technically not pulling their money out of the stock market, but somebody's manipulating it. 9 times out of 10, when the public pulls their money out of the stock market, they invest in gold, and the value of gold skyrockets. It will skyrocket in the coming months after all this has happened. It will. It'll skyrocket. Silver will skyrocket too. And eventually, in order to, the government, what the government's going to do is they're getting ready to flood the stock market with, I mean, just billions of dollars. And they don't have billions of dollars to print. They don't have anything to back that up. Hold on just a second. Okay. So they don't have billions of dollars to back any of that up. Nothing. So what money they have in circulation is what money they have in circulation. And the liquidity that the banks have, that's what they have. That's the extra money that they have. And when you think of the government flooding the market and everybody pulls their money out and you've just got money hanging there and you've got extra money in your country and it's got nowhere to go, the value of the dollar is going to drop. And it's going to drop hard. It's by the end of this, it's not going to be worth anything. Nothing at all. So, like I said, the plunge protection team, they convened, they talked to the banks. And I don't think, and the reason I think that the stock market's, another reason I think the stock market is going to be manipulated, is being manipulated, is because since November, every news outlet and every analyst has given a different reason as to why each stock crashed at the time it did. So take October 30th, for instance. Or this actually, it's the day before this. The day before this, it dropped 400 points, and then it gained back those 400 points. But every time the stock market tumbled or plunged, like this one, this stock market experts say this is a stumble, not a plunge, and they're saying what they mean by that is that it's a correction. It's a stock market correction. So you have Fox News market analysts saying that we're in a slump. It's just a correction. Okay, so then you have another company's, another media outlet, their analysts from Wall Street are saying that it's because the Fed's hiked the interest rate. Okay, so then you have another one saying that it's because of trade tariffs. There's been about 5 different scenarios, and none of them can agree on why the stock market is doing what it's doing. And it all of a sudden started dropping in, I'm going to say as early as September. And the stocks kind of started going sideways, and they started dropping during that time. And then October, you had the biggest loss of money in history from a few companies, Facebook, Apple. I mean, they lost billions of dollars in a matter of an hour, less than that. They lost billions. So, will the stock market recover after all this is going on? Analysts say that more than likely this is going to be worse than the Great Depression in 1932. they're calling today, which is Christmas Eve, which is it dropped another 400 points today, making it almost 7,000 points in the last 3 months. Well, since last 2.5, less than that, 2.5 months, 2 months, it dropped almost 7,000 points, and it dropping today was a huge sign that it's probably not going to gain. We're probably going to zero. It's going to drop all the way to zero, meaning that money is going to be worthless. There's going to be civil unrest. There's going to be riots. Everybody, you're going to start in the next 2 months. You're probably looking at people are going to start getting laid off more than likely. A lot of people are. A lot of people are going to get laid off. And if that happens, it's going to get worse. It's going to get even worse. So 70% stock market crash to strike January 1st. This is what they are saying is going to happen by January the 1st. They're looking at 70% of the stock market to crash. And people think this was an onset thing, and I mean, kind of it was. They predicted it to happen at the beginning of the year, and the stock market just didn't have anywhere to go, and the government kind of knew that. And I think everybody's saying that Trump caused it with his trade wars. One saying it's a correction, the other saying it's this, that, and the other, but none of them can agree on exactly what's causing it. And to me, I think it's the government being who they are, secretive, manipulative, and I think it's going to boil down to we're getting ready to come into a one world government. And in order for that to happen, you have to, the economy we have now has to break down in some sort of way in order to push the people to get that to happen. Just like they know that the people of the United States is not going to give up their weapons. They know they're not going to give up their guns. So as manipulative and as secretive as the government is, what do you think? How do you think they're going to do it if they know by law they can't take your weapons? So what's been going on for the last 2 years? For the last 3 years? There's been an explosion in mass shootings. And you're probably like, well, what's that got to do with it? If the government wants your weapons, like I said, they're not just going to take them from you, because that's going to cause even more problems. And they can't take, if they lose the trust of the citizens and they lose the trust of 330 million people, those 330 million people will come after them. And I don't mean in a way through the judicial system. I mean, they will literally pull them out of the White House. And the government during the transition that I'm speaking of, which is a one world government, the government cannot lose control of the people through this whole thing. The second that they lose control, they lose the people, and it all goes to shit. So they're not going to lose control through this whole thing. So how do they get your guns? if they implement enough mass shootings and they set up enough mass shootings on their behalf, if they get their CIA people to go to have mass shootings, such as what happened in Las Vegas and Florida and all that, if they have enough of those and enough high school shootings, you, the public, will hand over your weapons willingly because you don't want it to happen anymore. And more than likely, the mass shootings will get worse. They'll come in spurts, just like they are. Just like it's happening. It's not going to be a rise of a sudden rise, and it's just going to keep going and keep going and keep going. People are going to they'll get tired of it, and they'll willingly hand over their weapons. And if you think that's got anything to do with being, I'm Republican and I'm a Democrat, and you should give up your weapons, and liberal, or you're a Republican and you're from the state of Texas and you ain't taking my guns. If enough people, whether you're Republican or if the human side of a human being says, we're tired of people dying because of guns, you'll hand over your weapons. I guarantee it. They won't make you. They won't force you to, by no means. They're not stupid. They're not stupid. They're not going to force you to hand over your weapons. That's not going to happen. So, they've started slowly doing it. If you haven't noticed, they've started slowly doing it. They started banning certain semi-automatic weapons, and then they started banning certain types of accessories that go on to guns, and now they're going to start banning certain ammunition. They're going to they're putting limits on how many bullets your guns can hold, less than 10. Soon your gun's going to only be able to hold one bullet. They're implementing this slowly if you haven't paid attention. And you're not paying attention. That's the point of it. That's where people like me and John X Army and Adam from Marfugal News, that's where a lot of us have to fill you in, because in my opinion, I look at my views are common sense views, and it's easy to see what they're doing. I was once a criminal myself, and the easiest way to get away with crimes is common sense ways. My best way to get away with a crime was to do it right in front of you. People do not expect people to to commit a crime right in front of people. Most people don't pay attention to that. They're looking for the people that are hiding to do stuff, not the ones that are not hiding. So, what does all this have to do with anything? This is a plan by the government. They start with messing with your money. Right now they're messing with your money. You start messing with your money, and then there goes your housing, there goes your food, there goes your water, there goes the protection for your children. So after that, what comes? The government's gonna extend an olive branch and say, here, let us help. And when that time comes, you'll willingly, you're basically you're being coerced by the government. It's like a forced coercion but it's like they're just, if they do a little bit of stuff at a time, I mean, if you cannot tell it's political bullshit, it's not even funny. Right now, like I said, they're messing with your money. They're taking your food. Who do you have to depend on after that? Majority of Americans and the majority of the people in the United States do not grow their own food. They don't know how to grow food. They don't know where to get food unless it comes from a store. So when you get hungry enough and you see your children are suffering and the government finally hands out an olive branch, they've got you. At that point, they have you. And I believe that's what's getting ready to happen. The government's getting ready to, they're causing a controlled chaos in order to implement civil unrest. And once that civil unrest happens, that is the most basic law the United States has to implement martial law is civil unrest. Civil unrest, riots, and the definition for all that in the law is almost undefined. Basically, it lists as other purposes, and they can call it whatever they want. Just like a lot of cops do, blocking off streets, and they say it's a state of emergency. The laws that they've created don't list what state of emergencies are. They leave that up to the government to list what that is. So when the stock market crashes, and it's crashing, there will be a state of emergency, and because nobody has any food, nobody have any water. That's a state of emergency. But at the same time, people are going to start rioting because the government's not helping you out. They're going to extend that olive branch and say, here, we're going to be nice and help you out. Here's food, here's water. So what's the next step's going to be? I mean, surely you can figure that out. They controlled you right then. They got they have you in their pocket right there. So the next step is going to be taking your guns. There's going to be enough riots and enough shootings and enough murdering going on during the civil unrest when the stock market crashes. There is. And then after that, you'll willingly hand over your weapons. After that, the government has total control of you. And some people suggest that the next president may even be a communist, close to a communist dictator, maybe a dictator or a communist president, close to it. And it's a possibility. The stock market is, my wife and I had a conversation about it last night, about how the stock market is supposed to be part of the economy, but it's not supposed to be part of the economy. And technically it's not supposed to be. It's not, but it's a reflection of how the economy's doing, and basically it will control. It's controlling the economy right now. It is. And that's why everybody freaks out when the stock market crashes like this. And everybody's like, well, what's the difference between this crash and what happened in 2008 and 2009? the system's already overinflated as it is. If you overinflate it any more, the value of the dollar is going to go down. If you stick any more money into circulation, the value of the money is going to go down. And that's the exact reason why Trump sent in his plunge protection people, was to see if they needed any money. And whether they need any money or not, they're getting ready to send billions of dollars back into the economy, and Wall Street is still gonna, once it hits that last leg, it's gonna bump up a little. The economy, it'll hit a bottom, it'll hit a small support level, it'll bounce back up, and then and that'll be right after they introduce money into the economy. And once it does is that, it'll crash back down, and your money will be worthless. And they've just flooded the whole economy with something to start a fire with. And that's exactly what's being said about it all. So your best bet is just to get ready for all this. And the bad part about it is the rest of the world's getting ready to go with it. All the other economies, the world as a whole, the economies of the world are based on our dollar. So not so soon after our stock market crashes, the others will too. Just like this. Let me get back to that screen. All right, this is Toronto Stock Exchange. It dropped. S&P 300 capped. Index dropped. Let's look at United Kingdom. The United Kingdom fell a little. It looks like Indonesia's doing fine. Their economy's good anyway right now. Russia, their economies fell off. But let's see what the global is doing. Yeah, all of it. Soon after we fall, our market collapses, the rest of the stock market will go with it. Let's see if we can find gold. Let's see. United States. So gold is up $20. Gold is up $20. 100-ounce gold is up $20 to $1,267.50. So gold is up 1.66%. Silver is up 0.89%. Soybean stays up for some reason. It does better than most commodities nowadays. It does do better than most commodities. You know, 70%, I think the public holds somewhere overall 33% of public stocks. But most of the other stocks, a good chunk of it is held in retirement and IRAs and all that. You know, your retirement is people who have a 401k and have their money backed up by that. Your best bet is to buy you some straight up gold for now, but gold's not going to last very long as a currency either. It's not. It's not going to last very long as a currency either. And what I would suggest to everybody is start. I mean, it may be past time to start preparing. It may be. In the next 2 months, you may see bare shelves. And I'm not talking about everybody going out here and buying milk and bread for some reason. I don't know why everybody goes and buys milk and bread. It's not like you're going to make milk sandwiches. If you're going to buy anything, go buy yeast and flour to make bread with at any point in time. Go buy you a cow so you'll always have milk. A gallon of milk's with no electricity. When everybody starts getting laid off over the next 3 months, in 3 months everybody's going to start getting laid off because of what's going on with the stock market and the economy. That gallon of milk is going to last you 2 days, but you're not going to have any power, so where are you going to stick it? Your best bet is to start buying dry goods. And dry goods will end up being the currency. Why the United States and why the world's economies ever in the first place decided to base their whole financial system on a currency, on a piece of paper or a coin or a shiny rock that come out of the dirt is beyond me. Because all of those have a value that somebody gave it. They really don't have any value at all. Something only has value because you say it has value. And that's what all the financial systems across the world are based on. That's why, the rupee has value because India said it had value. Somebody in India said it had value. The Egyptians, they like gold because they said it had something to do with the gods. It was sacred. It was a sacred element to the gods. And United States backed up their currency at one time with gold because gold was there was a limited supply of gold. And not only that, whoever made the United States currency and said, hey, we need to go buy currency is, a lot of people believe that we wouldn't have what we have today without currency. And I say that's bullshit, and I say that's untrue. A lot of people believe we wouldn't be where we are technologically or all that had we not had a currency. We wouldn't have anything. That's not true. If human beings had a heart at all, they would do things to better others in the first place. Then that's how it's supposed to be. Human civilization as a whole is about bettering each other. If a person needs a house, build them a house. Right now we could all be working at our own jobs. Everybody in the world could have TVs and everything. As long as you worked The currency is work. That's the currency. As long as you work and you work towards the benefit of others, there's your currency right there. That could never fall. That could never fall. There's too many people to back it up. Your currency would be backed up by yourself. You know, imagine as long as you worked, if there was zero currency in the world and the currency was you having a job, and when you had a job, you built a house, you got your own property, you got to build a house, you got food, you could just go to a store and say, hey, I need some food. And, you know, and the same with that person at that store. He's working to better himself and he's working to better others. So he provides food for people just like everybody, you know, just like grocery stores would. It's not that hard. We would still be just as far off as we would. Money doesn't make thoughts, or money doesn't make intelligence. Money gives people a reason to share their intelligence. They want to get paid for that intelligence. Well, why not get paid by having a house? Or, you know, if every person in the world worked like I said, and your payment is having a home, having a vehicle, having the necessities you need. You know, people that work at an amusement park, they can keep the amusement parks open if they wanted to. You know, that could be their job if that's what they wanted to do. Just as long as you worked, you would have everything that everybody else has. Everybody would have equal wealth in the world if you've done it that way. But currency, people wanted to be greedy. People wanted more currency than the other person did. People wanted power. Whoever controlled the currency, whoever controlled how money is made, and whoever controlled the currency, that's who was in charge. That's who had the power. And guess who's got the power? The top 4 shareholders of the banks in the United States. Most of them live in Europe. The Rothschilds, all of them, they live in Europe. And then they own the biggest bank in Europe, the Dutch bank. And China owns most of those banks, including ours. And why? Because for some odd reason, the United States needs to borrow money off of a country. We give aid to another country, and I got this off of Facebook from a guy I know, and he put it this way: the United States is sending money to China, and China has a surplus of money, and we're sending money and food aid to China to help them. And then we borrow that same money back. We're borrowing our own money back and then paying them interest for it. When China has a surplus of trillions and trillions of dollars. And people wonder why our market is bad. Why are we loaning countries money that have a surplus of money? That's just stupid. That's stupid. And you know, let's go to we'll go to YouTube real quick, and and there's a lot more things going on right now besides the stock market. If you haven't noticed, there was a huge increase in asteroids and seismic events over the last year. Here, we'll take this for example. Let's see if I got it pulled up here. This video shows an increase of asteroids that's basically near Earth, basically that comes around the Earth. More and more and more, and you can see them being pulled in. If you look at all that, you can see all those asteroids being pulled in. And it got even worse over the last few years. So what are the odds that an asteroid may hit Earth? It's looking better and better every year, doesn't it? Not only do we have the stock market to tend with, we've got this. Is there a reason why? Is there a reason why that the United States and the government is trying their best to inhabit another planet? I mean, they're trying their best to. They've sunk more money into Mars than they have the moon or any other planet. Billions of dollars into Mars. And I was going to do a video on that, and it just turned, and I guess I can do it now. But the Earth slowed down last year, and when the Earth slowed down, scientists figured that there will be an increase in seismic activity, and they didn't know how bad it was going to be. And so far this year, India has been the hardest hit. And India has been the hardest hit out of all those. I mean, their earthquakes are up. The size of their earthquakes, the magnitude of their earthquakes are up significantly. And they don't know when it's going to speed back up. They have no clue. They have no clue when it's going to speed back up. And they say they guessed that seismic activity and volcanic activity would increase. And it has. 100% it has. And that's bad for us too. And there's no telling what's going to come out of that. So we got the government coming at us from one direction. We've got nature coming at us from another direction. And it doesn't, and I done a video on UFOs and all that. There's just a lot of people just feel that something big is going to happen, and it's and people need to be prepared for it. You know, the continuity of government, the laws have changed for continuity of government over the last 4 years. In 2004, an asteroid named Apophis was discovered to be on a head-on collision to Earth. Now, they were unsure at one point whether it was going to collide with Earth or not. And to this date, they're really unsure. They know it's headed towards Earth. They know it may hit in Santa Monica, off the coast of Santa Monica, California. They know it may hit there. But they're unsure on how they're unsure what it's got to pass through a certain keyhole on where it's going to hit. And what else happened in 2004? Right after that announced, Bush 2 announced that he was ending the space shuttle program, and it needed to be shut down. We were spending too much money. While also in the same address, he wanted NASA to start building space vehicles for deep space travel. But the space shuttle was costing too much money? That doesn't make any sense. Why would the space shuttle program be costing too much money, so shut it down, and then tell NASA to build a moon base on Mars, and then build more spacecraft for deep space travel on top of that? That just doesn't make any sense. You know, and then since then, UFO sightings have increased. The United States has started a 6th military branch, a space force, where they talk about fighting wars in space, and then the Canadian defense minister comes out and says, who is part of NORAD, which NORAD is a joint base between the United States and Canada, and they control the airspace in the United States and space. And the defense minister, who was part of that, comes out and says the United States Air Force is battling aliens in outer space. An 80-year-old man who's been working in the government all of his life come out and said that. Who's got the same exact power as so it's said he's got the same exact power as Prince Philip, because he's a permanent member of the same board as Prince Philip from Europe. They both know each other. You know, and that's odd for somebody of that stature, somebody with that type of knowledge and intelligence, to come out and say that the United States has been shooting down aircraft in space, and then all of a sudden here we are with a space force. You know, so back to what I was saying about, we'll go back to the stock market. John X Army, he did a great video today or yesterday on all some, you know, on what's going to happen. And it's not good.
What it is now. We've been calling gonna sell it, right? And I'm gonna make it.
And
if they do that,
he has a person who's telling him.
Yeah, right now.
He has a person who's telling him the same thing that analysts are telling everybody else.
Value as time goes on. Yeah. So why would? I mean, can people see my screen?
So. You know, your best bet is to. Your best bet is to start worrying about what you're gonna eat in the future. I mean, that's where you need to be, because things are looking pretty grim right now for people in the United States. And a lot of you are like, what do you do? At this point, the only thing I can tell you to do is do your best at trying to gather resources right now as much as you can. You know, on top of that, we have Russia down our throat. We've got North Korea down our throat. You know, once our stock market collapses and we don't have any money and the military goes home, once the military goes home and there's no way for them to get paid and there's no way to give them any food because the companies have gone under, there's no people making food, what happens to our military then? We don't have anybody to keep from invading us at that point. Will they invade us? If you don't think they will, something's wrong with you. I mean, look how many countries the United States has invaded when they shouldn't have. And if you don't know, we have troops. We have Trump just pulled troops back from Syria and other countries back to the United States. While during the last few months, a lot of people don't know that the military has been deploying all over the United States. FEMA has been deploying mobile command centers throughout the United States, and not just the southern border. It's not just the southern border. They're doing it all over the place. All over the place. Brock Long stated in his own words on C-SPAN that FEMA was currently, and this was as of November, that they were putting Brock Long was that FEMA was putting mobile command centers all over the United States, and the military was being deployed all over the United States. It's called Operation Hot Musket, and that's what they're doing. And a soldier, an E6 soldier, sent out his classified deployment orders, and he was going to pick up, in the orders, he was going to pick up a crowd control device from Texas. And a lot of people are like, well, you can't deploy military on our own land. Well, first of all, they changed the laws on that. Second of all, most Army and most Navy are also National Guard. They also signed up for the National Guard. So you got most of the Army and most of the Navy that's signed up as a reservist on top of being in the Army. And yes, you can do that. You can be a reservist. So, you know, what do you do? There's a lot of stuff headed our way. we're in the middle of a financial crisis. And all of it points towards the government is trying to implement their Agenda 21 on the whole world. It's going to end up being a one world government, and the government's scaring people into that one world government. And nobody's going to end up having a job. Everybody's going to end up being in cities. They're saying right now that people are being arrested and sent to FEMA camps, and nobody's hearing from them anymore. There's people going missing every day, they say. So the stock market plunged on Christmas Eve, and it's said that it's the worst day in the history of the stock market. It's the worst day in history of the United States. The worst day in history. And it's going to continue to get worse. The Dow Industrial standing at 21,700. The price of oil's down. They hate that. They hate that worse than anything. I mean, the owners of these oil companies are upset about it. And then you've got people, you've got Trump. The Fed, Trump is blaming the Fed for the crash. Then you've got the media and Congress blaming Trump. Then you've got the analysts are saying that's not that, it's the Fed. And then you got another analyst or another media company saying it's a correction. And then you've got other analysts saying it's this and that and the other. And none of them agree on what is causing the crash. What's causing it? Can't nobody agree. It's just happening, they say. And they don't know how to stop it. It's just happening and they don't know how to stop it. And to me, when nobody knows why something is happening in the stock market, and they're just taking a guess, and you've got 10 different guesses, and you haven't figured it out, somebody's manipulating it. It's being manipulated for a long time. The government has, they put in, it's a big scheme. It's a big scheme. Mnuchin calls bankers, prepares plunge protection team. Trump attacks the Fed again as the markets sink. All the news is the same. The news is telling the people to be worried. The news is telling everybody to be prepared. And a lot of people are wondering what happens next after this. The government's going to flood the economy with worthless money, and then the people are going to figure it out, and the stock market's going to drop even further. After that point, it's going to drop to zero. It will drop to zero after that. After the federal government starts printing money, the U.S. Treasury starts printing money and starts putting a crap ton of money back into the economy to build it back up. That's a false. That's false. That's a false sign. That is trying to create. I mean, I understand they're trying to stop it from happening, or maybe they are trying to make it happen. Maybe they're trying to push our dollar down to nothing. Surely, if everybody else is saying it, if people who don't even work in the stock market are saying that what they're going to do is going to cause our market to get even worse, the government knows it. The government knows it. Which means if they know it, it's being done on purpose. If you don't think the government's smart, and a lot of people don't think Trump is smart, they think he's the stupidest president of the United States. You have to understand something. Trump is a billionaire. He has been successful his whole life. He's always made money. He's one of the most successful people in the United States. And people are saying all this is happening because of him. Well, first of all, why would you elect a president that acts like that in the first place? He didn't act like that before. You hardly ever heard about him. Ever. And then all of a sudden he becomes president and he starts acting stupid. I like Trump and what he's doing, but I'm going to tell you, he's not like any of the other presidents we've ever had. Not in history. He jumps all over the place. I'll tell it to you like this. He's being the way he's being on purpose. And you can tell that. There's no way that a president would act that dumb. There's no way a president would keep. And there's no way the United States government would let him keep doing it. They can stop it easily. Easily. The people could stop it easily. It's being ignored on purpose. Have you not noticed that the media constantly keeps covering Trump? Something happens, they go back to Trump. Something happens, they go back to Trump. It's like every time they get away from Trump, he does something to say, look at me, look at me. Like I've said before. It's all being done on purpose. In our past presidents, when have a past president ever put us in a bad situation like this? When has a president ever acted this dumb? When has a president or a leader of any country acted this dumb? Kim Jong-un doesn't act like this. I mean, prior to this, Donald Trump, if you don't think Donald Trump knows how to talk as a businessman, then there's something wrong with you. He does. He's a billionaire. He didn't make billions by not knowing how to talk. And then all of a sudden he gets in the White House and he spouts off at the mouth with everything, and everybody's like he's just on a power trip. No, he had all the power he wanted before he was president. He had all the power he wanted. So if y'all think all this is just something that's happening, you're dead wrong. It's being done on purpose. All of it. All of it's being done on purpose. In order to get a new government in place, in order to get a new world order in place, the other one has to collapse. The other one has to fall. You can't just change a government in an instant. And in order for that to happen, there needs to be controlled chaos. And that's what's happening, controlled chaos. Controlled chaos comes, civil unrest comes. That's when the government says, hey, we're going to control the civil unrest. Here's a national emergency. Here's martial law. And we're going to take over. Your money's gone. You don't have any food because the economy collapsed, which is what's going on now. There's chaos in the government. There's chaos around the world. The other worlds have collapsed because the United States dollars collapsed to nothing. People's losing their jobs. They want food, so they're going to look to the government. That's exactly what's going to happen. And my advice to you is to be ready for that, to get away from the cities, get away from people, find you a place you can go to where you know your neighbors are going to be nice and you know you can work together and where you all can protect each other. Basically, it's going to you're looking at an apocalyptic type event that's being caused on purpose. The CDC even has a zombies apocalypse plan. Whether that's fake or not, or whether that's just something that they threw on there, that's up to them. But anyway, I'm gonna jump off here. If you watch the video later on, right now everybody I get a few views every now and again. I wish I could get more. Share my videos, hit the like button, subscribe. I mean, I'm not going to keep doing it if I'm just talking to myself, I mean, you can't say I'm wrong. If there's that many liberal people out here that just can't think for themselves, then liberal people for some reason have gotten so violent it's not even funny. And I'm talking about the liberal people who are vegetarians or who are activists for everything, and for some reason they've gotten really violent. And if you're watching me, if you believe what I'm saying, then hooray. But everybody, if you like my videos, like I said, like and subscribe to my videos. And I hope to do another one pretty soon. All right. Peace out, everybody.